Hey everyone, it's Yvonne Inglesos here from the Eating Disorder Recovery Hub. Don't forget to subscribe and follow our page so you can get when I'm doing these live, so you can join me in the moment so I can answer any questions that you may have. Today's live is about isolation during an eating disorder. Now, I decided to do this because when I asked the question of what are some of the biggest challenges you're facing, the community was responding to me saying, there's a few different things they've been responding with, but isolation was probably repeated a fair few times. So I thought I would answer this one. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit around what people say isolation is about. So there's this belief that isolation is a way of distracting yourself from the pain and fear you have in your life. I don't know that I agree with that one so much, because I think that when you're spending time alone, you're usually quite heavily focused on the eating disorder anyways. So I don't know about it being a distancing yourself from your pain, because you're usually sitting in it on your own then, which feels like shit. So I don't know that that's one I agree with. You may feel differently, and that's cool. But what I'm saying is that isolation, why is it such a big challenge for everyone that has an eating disorder? And don't get me wrong, it is massive for everyone that has an eating disorder. Isolation is one of the things that people really struggle with. So what is it? Why is it happening? Right? Well, if we think about it, isolation may, for example, reinforce the fact that you may feel that there's something wrong with you. Yeah? So it feels like there's something wrong with you, so you shouldn't go out in public, and it's usually the eating disorder that gets the blame for this. Yeah? So the eating disorder gets to be the very reason that you can't go out to do things. So whether that's going out to dinner, meeting up with friends, you feel like the behaviors, the thoughts, they're so consuming, don't end up doing anything. So you spend time by yourself, because that way, well, that's what you deserve in a sense, right? That's really, it could be. It might be for some people. For other people, maintaining isolation from people is thought to be about privacy. Now, it could be that you do spend a lot of time secret eating, and binging, doing the eating disorder behaviors on your own. I'm going to tell you what I think isolation is really about, right? I think the isolation from when you have an eating disorder, struggling with isolation, what it really is about is the fact that you don't know how to set boundaries. You actually don't know how to set some healthy boundaries with people. So what you do is you set the ultimate boundary by not actually going out. You spend lots more time by yourself, and that's how you end up, setting boundaries. And some people don't even know what that is. I can tell you that I had very little idea what healthy boundaries were. When you have an eating disorder, I'm 150%, you can bet that you have unhealthy boundaries. It's the very nature of an eating disorder, right? So setting boundaries via isolation is one major protective mechanism. And it's shit because it actually fuels how alone you feel in this. But the other thing is that when you actually do push yourself to go out with other people, the problem is that you usually feel so alone anyway that you feel like there's no point in doing this because you don't know how to connect with other people. Again, this is at the core of an eating disorder, because when you have an eating disorder, you don't know how to connect with yourself, right? With your body, with your own needs. And so it's very difficult to connect with other people. When you do connect, it's usually on a very superficial level, or it doesn't feel like it's a really deep level for you. And that's really what people with eating disorders are yearning for, right? Yearning for more connection, stronger connection with self, with others, but it doesn't really, it's not a conscious thought, okay? Just so you know that. So often another reason people isolate is because they may not like what's going on around them. Well, now what I mean by this is, say you isolate yourself from your family. Now it can be that rather than wanting to explain to them that the way they're supporting you, for example, is not really feeling like it's supportive, You say, no, I can't, the eating disorder, it's too much, it's too intense. I'm getting lots of hearts here because I think this is a major one. When you don't feel like you could speak up about how you need to be supported, people with eating disorders tend to go for the road that sort of, there's less conflict, right? So that means isolating yourself, putting yourself away from whoever is around you, and not being able to actually say, look, you know, when you said this, I actually felt really upset, and what I'd like is for you to support me this way, right? It's not even, it just feels like it's too rude for someone with an eating disorder to say something like that. And this is what we have to help each of you to know, that speaking up is way better than isolating yourself. Isolating yourself just makes you feel like you're the issue, rather than, I don't know how to communicate to another person that they are actually not supporting me the way I want. Other examples of being around friends that you don't feel like you connect with, right? It's like, rather than being able to say, look, you know, I don't want to be around people that really focused, for example, on looks, and are really focused on, you know, the latest crazes on social media, whatever it is. So rather than actually saying that and being honest with that, you tell yourself there's something wrong with you, or you just choose to stay home and be with your eating disorder behaviors. The issue with that is, at the end of it, you feel like shit because you've not only isolated yourself, you've spent the whole weekend or each and every day of your life isolating yourself, spending time alone, reinforcing that you're the issue, rather than, I am not connecting with these people that I once connected with. So it could feel like those relationships do not actually, how do I say it? They don't feed your spirit, right? So they're not feeding your spirit. So what you do is you just shut down, you want to isolate, you don't even want to be around people that you don't feel you connect with, right? So at the bottom of this, I want you to just remember the fact that when you have an eating disorder, it's a massive struggle to connect with anyone. And it feels like isolation is the issue, the eating disorder is the issue that's keeping you from other people. But honestly, more often than not, it's like when I do go out and spend time, I don't enjoy it. My spirit is not alive. I don't want to be around those people. I don't feel supported. And so it's just it feels easier to just sit at home and isolate yourself with your behaviors. So what happens is the eating disorder actually rescues you from being vulnerable and taking risks, developing other more authentic relationships. I'm getting a crazy load hearts and likes here with what I'm saying, and I think it's because this resonates with people who struggle with an eating disorder. Everyone I'm mentoring that struggles with an eating disorder constantly, like, you know, if my sessions with them are over Tuesday, I'll say, hey, what's going on? And they're like, oh, I isolated, I didn't want to go and see anybody, I just felt like it wasn't, you know, I didn't want to be out and about, the eating disorder was too loud, the eating disorder voice was too loud. What happens usually is that people with eating disorders, because they don't know how to set boundaries, if they go out with someone and say that friend suggests doing something, you know, it's like, well, why don't we go to watch this movie? And the person with the eating disorder cannot bring it in themselves to actually say, look, I don't feel like doing that, I'd rather do this. The person with the eating disorder ends up going to the movies despite not feeling like they want to. Then they have this, they don't even know, they're not connected to it, that they're frustrated, and they're frustrated with a friend, but they're more frustrated with themselves because they can't actually say, look, I don't actually want to do that. So what happens the next time is, the next time someone suggests, hey, how about we do this? The person with the eating disorder will say, no, can't do it, don't feel like it, I've got something else on. I remember I used to make fucking truckloads of excuses so that I wouldn't do stuff, you know, and if I did do stuff, it would usually be very surfacey things. So, you know, going out to a club, partying hard, where it wasn't about trying to connect with people, because I didn't actually know how to do it. And I didn't want to find myself in situations where I felt that I was going to be vulnerable, that it was going to be too much of an intimate situation, because I thought, if they sit there and talk to me long enough, my biggest fear was that they were actually going to realize I had the eating disorder and that I felt like shit inside. So I didn't want to do that. So often it was easier for me to just spend time by myself because I already felt like shit and I didn't want other people to see that, right? So there's lots of reasons that you may isolate, okay? I think the two major ones are not knowing how to be authentic and not wanting to hurt people's feelings. And the other one is not knowing how to have healthy boundaries. So what you do is you go in, rescue people, you do things you don't want to do. So it's easy to fucking just sit at home, be involved in the eating disorder behaviors. So what I want you to know, I was so excited last night. I was talking with a client and she was telling me that coming into the eating disorder recovery hub for her has been so awesome because she realizes that she's not alone and that all the things she's been thinking are actually not, right? Are not what's keeping her sick, and we're trying to help her develop a really good sense of herself so that she doesn't need the eating disorder to isolate herself from her life, right? And we want to help you not isolate, but to actually learn how to speak up so that you can develop the relationships that you want to, be able to have authentic relationships. Now, don't get me wrong, because everyone that you're going to start speaking with won't want to hear it because they want to care for you the way they want to care for you rather than actually listening to what you want to say. So, in saying all of this, I really want to encourage you, when this is your major challenge, and isolation is huge for people with eating disorders, is to remember that I can build skills so that I don't need to isolate myself and miss out on life, right? It's one of the keys to getting out of the eating disorder. It is one of the reasons you need to learn how to be assertive. It's one of the reasons building boundaries is super important. And all of that stuff, I'm doing heaps of content for you on this Facebook page, on our websites, but also the members in our membership site are loving all the videos I've got that are building their sense of self so that they don't need to keep isolating themselves. It keeps you small to isolate yourself. It keeps you from developing the life you want. When you isolate yourself, you rob yourself of precious moments that you could be working towards recovering. Now, that's not me saying go out and be with friends and people you don't want to be with. That's not what I'm saying. But be honest about what it is that's keeping you from going out. Most people just say the eating disorder keeps me from spending time with people. And sure, it does. But if you don't want to be spending time with those people, if you don't want to be doing things because, for example, you may have someone that says, I really want to do this activity, and you can't bring yourself to tell them that you don't want to do that activity, and then you do it, then you're angry and resentful, you will inevitably go to the eating disorder behaviors to save you. You will, to soothe your rage and your anger, you will use the eating disorder behaviors, and then in your mind, unconsciously, you will just be going, I don't want to do that again, so it's easier for me just not to go out. So when that happens, remind yourself you can develop the skills so that that's not where you go to, that you don't actually have to use the eating disorder behaviors to deal with the distress of going out and connecting with people. We are going to continue to bring you heaps of really awesome content. I'm going to tell you heaps of what I did myself, and I don't want you to just push through all this bullshit. I don't want you to just do that. I want you to know that you can develop skills so that you can go out and have the life you want. You don't need to use the eating disorder as your boundary anymore. Now, someone said, Layla, you've said you're amazing. Thank you so much for all of this. Sending you love, light, prayers, and positivity your way. I'll be a regular on these sessions. You are appreciated. Thank you so much, Layla. Appreciate you too. I hope that this has been helpful for you. Check out our Eating Disorder Recovery Hub membership site and please come in there because we're doing heaps of awesome stuff for you to be able to be supported day, night, anytime that you feel like you're isolated. Okay, bye.